Yeah, Tushar, you're up. So just reading here. So how do we generate NFTs? How do we make a smart contract? This is a great question. Tushar, we want the hard way or the easy way? Cool. Yeah. Okay, so the easy way is to use a platform. So you're not going to have to do programming. There's a zero code solution. And then the slides are here for this. How to choose a platform. That's this one. This presentation tells you exactly how to make NFTs without coding. This is the easy way. I review all the different platforms that people nominated. I used every one of them. I actually deployed on every platform. Some of those are still for sale. And then I go through my experience deploying one NFT on each platform. So one of them was using Rarible. The next one's a different color. But just I use every single one of these platforms. So you can just scroll through this presentation. It's over 100 slides, and you can see how different these are. And you can see one that you feel comfortable with, and just go straight ahead and use that. And all the steps are here. Every step is in there. So I use OpenSea, Mintbase, Rarible, Foundation, Mintable, Zora. Yeah, one of those did shut down. And you can see every one of these platforms, and maybe one of them doesn't really make sense, and then you can decide based on looking at these which one you think is going to be for you. But every single step is outlined here. I mean, it's over 100 slides. Yeah, this is not the Warcraft event. I don't know why you thought this was. Oh, we got Dirty Harry up in the Discord. This is Warcraft II we're talking about, because that's the only Warcraft. We got 2 servers for that over here. That'll be later, because you got to dial in with your modem. No. We've got BattleNet. Okay. So here's Dan's experience in open source, and now he's starting at the floor level, on the floorboards, at the very, very bottom of open source, where everything's public and your code reviews are in front of millions of people instead of just a few that you pick. And he works at an established place that I used to work at too. And it is very professional and possibly a different environment. So he's got a positive attitude here, and Dan's going to explain his experience getting his first pull request into Solidity. Cool. So you want to read these 2 things first. GitHub has intro resources for people that want to contribute, but also they got some great guides for people that want to create projects and create communities too. Dan and I were talking, he's really looking forward to make his first contribution. And so you can go one-on-one, find someone who's done it. You can read the README. You can hopefully find the part of the README that's made for new people. And every good project should have one of those parts. And then the other way is just look at the peanut gallery. You look at the other people who've made PRs, and then see what that discussion is like, see what the pushback has been. And that is giving you an understanding of the culture, because there's a permanent history of all this stuff. And so Dan's pulling up some previous ones to kind of see how long the discussion is. I've been in discussions that are this long for 1 line of code. No problem. A very big company will have a style and a voice section and a department of marketing that does these things. But in an organization of programmers and hackers, we don't have marketing people, but we have to have marketing guidelines. So they got to be written down somewhere. And you're expected to read these things. Or if you don't, then someone else who reads them, who's a bigger nerd than you, will correct you, and then you'll go back and forth, and you will learn that way too. But you want to find what's written down and what's relevant to whatever it is that you happen to be working on. And you're working on some of the nerdiest stuff here. You're working on editing documentation comments. So this is pretty nerdy. So this is like deep in there. So Dan was looking at the project from this community service hour, took one of the tasks from our project board, and then in there was some regex of how to find some issues with Solidity documentation. So he picked one up, he ran with it, and then he made a PR to fix those issues identified by the regex. So this is coming full circle. So these are things we talked about here. He took it, he ran with it, and now he's bringing it back. Here are the work log, the tasks. So there's a bunch here that anybody can work on. He just pasted them straight into VS Code and searched as a regex, and then got things to check into. Okay, so this is the whole Git process. So Git is definitely a learning curve. I started with C version system, then I went to Subversion, then I went to Git. No matter where you start, Programming has its own systems, which you absolutely need to learn. And I've been using Git for 10 years or something, and I still don't know it, and I still look it up every time I use it. So this stuff is not intuitive. So don't ever be like, oh, I'll figure this out. You will never, you might, but don't make that your goal. So this is going to be a learning curve forever. So yeah, so there's code out there, there's code locally, then you've got staging, branches, commits, and it gets to be a forest, jungle, real fast. Yeah, so he's got agency over here of what's on his computer, and then he's got agency of his fork. So that's called a fork, what exists on github.com. So that's a repo that he has access to. And then there's the upstream, which is the official Solidity project. And so he does not have rights, he does not have authority on that server. That demarcation line, the orange line, is the demarcation of his authority. So he has authority on the right side with his repo locally and then on his computer. And obviously, this is a very simple version of what's actually going on. When you use Git, you're pushing to your repo. So he has authority. Push is a matter of authority. So he's pushing to his forked repo. So the code, the blue on the right, when he gets that code into github.com on his fork, that's a push. So he has authority to push. But he does not have authority to push to Solidity. And so he was kind of hung up on this word, why is it a pull request and not a push request? And the reason why is because the agency is from the members that have the authority here. So while it seems like you're pushing to Ethereum, that's never what's happening. So somebody from the other side of the fence needs to come take what you have and put it there. So at no point in time are you crossing this fence. You are not crossing the fence. They're crossing the fence to bring it in. You're never pushing it. You're never throwing something over the fence. You're never pushing to their code. That's always why they're pulling it. Squash and rebase. So hang up number 2 is that while he's editing his version of the Word file, they're editing their version of the Word file, and then somebody's got to reconcile these changes. So back when we used Word files for school, before the modern times, somebody would need to be in charge of the Word files. And like, there's a Word file coming from Bob, and there's a Word file coming from Dan, and which one was going to copy from what to where. That's a whole thing. Now for programmers don't like doing admin work. They like programming. They created a system to do that called Git, the stupid content tracker. That's the official tagline for Git. So Git doesn't really know what is like the good version or the bad version. All Git knows is, when did your version break off? When did it fork? When did it split from the main branch? That's the model Git uses. Git is like, okay, you started here, you made these changes, and there's a divergence branch. What it's doing is it will replay those changes if possible. If it's not controversial, it can replay changes across the branch, and that's called a rebase. This is a complicated concept. Git does it automatically, and so rebasing is something that is the fundamental thing you need to learn for Git, is what is a rebase. So rebasing and cherry picking. These are the two fundamental concepts that you don't need to know the command lines for doing these things, but you need to fundamentally understand what is a rebase and what is a cherry pick in order to do your job. Before you get into a world of pain, if you are about to do something fancy like a rebase and you really just don't trust yourself, and this is totally noob, what you do is you compress on Mac, you just find that folder and you just compress the whole thing into a zip file. That's like one big magic nuclear undo button for the whole thing, because it can get a little hairy. You got to check out a folder, and then what you do is you zip it. So on Mac, you right click on that folder, click compress, and it'll give you a zip file, which is like a backup of that folder. So, there's no magic in Git. Everything is just inside files in that folder. If you really foobar it, you could just delete the folder and uncompress it, and you're back where you started. It is possible to foobar yourself with Git, especially in the middle of a complicated merge or rebase. That can get a little ugly if you forget, because you have to you're entering commands and you have to remember where you were. You have to you can't just keep typing. You have to be like, okay, I'm halfway through this thing and I have to finish it before I can do anything else. That can get a little ugly. And if you mess it up, you have to undo stuff, and that's, you only do that once until you're like, okay, don't mess this up again. Also, luckily you're working on documentation, and I know for a fact no one else is working on documentation. So you're pretty good. But if you were working on code that other people are editing too, that's even more painful. So there's two steps in this graphic from these two. The first thing is that A, B, and C are squashed into ABC. The second thing here is that ABC is now on top of head instead of the thing before head. So there's actually two things going on here. And again, this is something you want to totally understand this. Now you're working on the easy task because other people aren't messing around here. But for more complicated tasks, like when you're competing with other people to make the same feature or stuff like that, maybe not competing, but you're in the pit with them together. This can get a little ugly, is because when you squash the commits ABC, that's one nugget. And so if Git sees anybody else near your nugget, they're going to stop the whole thing. They're like, okay, I don't know how to apply all this stuff. But instead, the other way to do it is to first rebase and then squash, which is where it independently moves A on top of the new head, and then it moves B on top of your A, and then C on top of your B. That may be easier for Git because they're smaller things. They're smaller nuggets. Big picture, the faster you do your work, the less likely you're going to crash into something. Some common advice here is to rebase often. So like if you start this now and then you pick it up on Sunday, the first thing you do is rebase. So whatever progress you've already made, make sure that's still relevant. There's one on Git SCM. So this is the official document, and I would recommend this. And here they got pictures up and down. And you really got to be able to understand what this picture. If you don't understand this picture, do not proceed. Like this has got to make 100% sense right here. This has got to make sense. And you and I should be able to talk like, we got the feature here, we got the feature there. How do we move the feature from here to there? So you can ping somebody to review it. Actually, it should automatically recommend me because I'm an owner of this part of the code. So I did review it, and anybody who wants to do open source work and wants to get a review, just ping me and you'll get one. There was some question at the top, like should this PR even be accepted? Is this even important enough? And then the team kind of deferred to me on this one because I'm the code owner in this part. If you want to get a PR through, you want to contribute, maybe it's not substantial. Maybe other people would push back, but I'll just get it through. So if you're moving something forward, I want you to get, score points on the board. This is important to me, to make things easy for new people. And so if you're new, I'm definitely going to push. All right. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for show and tell. So, internship. Yeah. Okay. Great. What's your experience? Do you have a portfolio? Let's write down on paper your interests and your experience and anything that can be maybe considered a portfolio. So why are you interested? What specific type of projects? Are you interested in DeFi, tokens going up and down in price? Are you interested in artwork, NFTs? Are you interested in game theory, hacking? There's a lot of angles. So let's articulate what it is you're looking for. Don't tell me you have no portfolio. So let's go find something that you've done or you are interested in and make it a portfolio. Just taking some articles that you've read and summarizing them, that's a portfolio. That shows your interest. So let's get something that we can market you, and then let's find somebody that's interested in working with you and then get you into an internship. And I'm looking only for paid internships. I'm not looking for you to work for free. Okay, let's make you known, right? Let's not make you somebody who's just interested. Let's make you somebody who's the things that you've done, let's get them on paper. Do you use GitHub? Do you have a blog? Okay, so let's give you some homework here. Okay, so I'm gonna give you the same homework that people get when they show up to one of my classes, one of my workshops. And there's quite a few steps, but this is the basic requirements for getting started with Ethereum, programming, any of this stuff. Even if you're not programming, this is a good first step to getting started. And then we want to get a blog or something for you. We want to make you employable. We want you to not just be looking for an internship. We want you to get an internship. Some homework for you can please be to finish all these 18 steps. You can definitely get through this. And then 2 is to articulate what type of things that you're interested in. You said DeFi. Maybe you could tell us what you'd like to do with DeFi. Do you want to be programming? Do you want to be trading? Do you want to be looking for new projects or explaining? So let's write this down. So we want to write these things down onto a web page. This web page could be your GitHub profile, or it could be a blog. You can just make a blog. This can be your first post. And you can say, hi, my name's Tushar. I'm interested in DeFi. And then next, on the next week, we'll talk about taking some of the experience that you have already, or some quick experience that you can get to add on to that and say, this is what I've done already. And so you might feel like you don't have any experience, but you can quickly get experience. You never want to start an internship without experience. This is a chicken and egg problem. We can quickly get experience. So we're going to break this, and we're going to put you at the top of people's lists. We're going to get you articulating what it is you're looking for. We're going to publish that somewhere. If you do this homework, and then the next week, within 2 weeks' time, you'll be very well positioned to get an internship. Is that fast enough?